And Terrence,
Hey, Thuy, how you doing?
good, thanks. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be talking about buyer agency. And with the upcoming rules that are going to start in August, where we no longer have the co-broke commission advertised on the MLS, agents are going to need to have that exclusive buyer agency signed. We've been
Oh,
doing it
yes, they
quite
are.
a while here in Michigan as a designated agent uh, brokerage, and we've been signing that exclusive buyer agency. Tell me what's your experience like using that?
Um, I have not had any issues personally with it. As long as I'm talking with my client and getting them and letting them know everything that's going on and presenting them to them with all the facts, they've readily signed it without any issues.
Do you sit down and do a buyer agency consultation before you take them out to show a house?
As much as I can, yes. Obviously, there's
Mhm.
the sometimes the occasional they meet me while I'm showing someone else's house, but yes, as much as I can, I'll do and go through and describe what I can do for them and and try to find out what they expect as far as finding a house.
Really? I think that representation and explaining to them what agency means in terms of who represents who and how it's in their best interest to have someone representing them as they are, going into negotiations, probably on the largest investment that they'll make in a lot of cases. So, have you ever gotten any, pushback on signing it?
For the most part, no. I have occasionally had the one that may ask about why not just go with the listing agent and, explaining that the listing agent is working for the seller in their best interest. They want someone working for them. But for the most part, after getting down and sitting and talking with them about and finding out what they want and what they need and what we're going to do to try to get you the best house possible, um, I haven't had any other pushback besides that.
Yeah, I think when we sit down and take the time to explain agency to them using the agency disclosure relationships, we help educate them in understanding the commitment that we make to them and that in the exclusive buyer agency that they're willing to make to us. And this helps avoid any confusions or problems down the road, as we work with our buyers. Would you agree?
I agree. I believe it's in the interest of everyone to hold conversations for the agents and the clients to talk. It's the times when you don't talk, it's when things go wrong. But as long as everyone has the open line of communication and are able to convey their ideas back and forth and get them addressed, everyone feels comfortable and are willing to move forward with whoever it is they're working with at the time.
Yeah, and I know that sometimes agents try to get away with doing the least amount of paperwork as possible. And, I believe in being thorough and making sure that, the buyer understands exactly what I'm going to do for them. And when we have it in writing, is um, how we need to have it in order to go forward. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I do understand the idea of paperwork is boring and you want to try to avoid it, but you really need to get that done. You want to make sure that you are covered, your client is covered, the entire deal's covered. You don't want to have something come back on you sometime later because you didn't do what you were supposed to do and make sure everyone's properly taken care of.
Well, not getting a buyer agency signed as we move forward and showing a potential buyer a house that you don't have in it where you don't have an exclusive buyer agency, you are risking not getting paid. True?
Yes, very much
Yeah.
so. And I really like that money.
And we don't, in this market, especially in this market where there is low inventory and every buyer, well, is pretty much competing with another buyer to get that house in our current market conditions. You don't want to be in a situation where you walk into a house, you haven't gotten a commitment from the buyer that you're going to get paid by them or potentially by the seller, depending on the conversation that you have with them. And then walking and say, I want to buy, I want to write an offer on this house. First, you got to get that exclusive buyer agency signed. I think that that's a good thing. And we've been doing it here in Michigan for a long time, explaining agency to a client, whether they're your seller or whether they're a potential buyer, is always the best thing in the best interest of the public and in the best interest of the client. Knowing what they should expect from you and what you should expect from them and getting a commitment and getting it in writing is what we always say about a purchase agreement.
Yes. I haven't seen a single client that I've dealt with that hasn't been willing to go through that process. And plus, to me, it's not wanting to do the buyer agency agreement is the same to me, paramount as saying I don't want to work properly for my client. I don't want to do all the proper paperwork for my client. I don't want to protect them. I don't want to make sure they're getting what they need to get the house properly.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to hold that conversation, then with for yourself, why would you be willing to do it for your client?
Yeah. Needing understanding fiduciary responsibility and ensuring that your potential buyer understands that as well, knowing the value that comes with that in order to for them in this market where they're competing to get houses is extremely paramount. And having being able to sit down and have that buyer consultation and explaining agency and getting a commitment in writing in the exclusive buyer agency agreement is what we have to do today and what we've been doing for a long time. And it's not as difficult as a lot of people think it's going to be. I
I've not seen it being difficult at all. It's again, hold a conversation with a person. It's easy as talking with them and letting them know. Just about everyone I've dealt with has, and like I said, I had very few people that had objections to it, but everyone has said yes.
I think that when you get potential objections to it, is when you haven't answered their questions in terms of what it means to be represented by an agent and
Yes.
shown the value of that. Well,
Yes. In which
I
case, it's a case of listening and finding out what your client wants, which is what your job is to do.
right, right, and protecting them and doing the best you can for them. That is the fiduciary, right?
Yes.
Right.
Answering their
All
questions,
right.
anticipating their needs. Yes.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, I think that that as we go forward, if uh, if we need to learn how to do that, we're going to be doing it in training weekly. And I look forward to seeing you in some of the classes, maybe helping some of the other agents out that aren't as comfortable doing it yet. Would you be willing to help me out, Terrence?
Yes.
I
I'll be happy to
appreciate
do
that.
that.
All right. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm I am hoping that agents get as comfortable with this as you are and as I am. And it's just a matter of going through your value proposition, what you bring to the table, and getting a commitment from the buyer in writing. I think that that's fair. You know, it's fair that we be
Yes.
compensated. Sure, sure.
It's very fair to get
And
compensated for where you work. Yes.
thank you so much. All right. Well, trainings in my office on Mondays. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about this today, and look forward to seeing you very soon.
See you soon.
All right. Thanks, Terrence.